The clinking of silverware and murmuring of voices filled the high-end restaurant, where chandeliers cast a golden glow over the elite clientele. The evening was in full swing when Vanessa Montgomery, a socialite known for her sharp tongue and even sharper fashion sense, wrinkled her nose in disgust as a young waiter approached her table. "Excuse me," she sneered, barely looking up from her designer clutch. "Can we get someone clean to serve us?" The waiter, Elliot, paused, gripping his tray just a little tighter. He was used to condescending customers, but this one stung more than most. He wasn't unattractive, just a little rough around the edges. Messy curls framed his face, and his uniform, though spotless, was slightly wrinkled from the long shift of Vanessa's dinner companion. Samantha let out a giggle, covering her mouth. "Honestly, Vanessa, you're terrible. I mean, just look at him." Vanessa continued as if Elliot wasn't standing right there. "That hair, those glasses, it's like a walking disaster. No offense, sweetheart, but some people just don't belong in places like this." Elliot felt the heat rise in his cheeks. He had been insulted before, but something about Vanessa's tone, so dismissive, so entitled, made his stomach turn. Yet, he forced a smile and nodded. "I'll get another server for you, ma'am." As he turned away, he heard Samantha whisper, "Poor guy, must be miserable working for tips." Vanessa laughed. Some people are just meant to serve. Little did she know, she would soon be the one begging for his attention. Elliot clenched his jaw as he walked away, setting the tray down at the waiter's station. He had dealt with rude customers before, but something about Vanessa's arrogance got under his skin. He had grown up around wealth, understood their world better than they assumed, but he had chosen a different path, one they would never expect. "Hey man, you okay?" his co-worker, Derek, asked, noticing his tense posture. "Yeah," Elliot muttered. "Just another entitled customer." Derek chuckled. "Welcome to the club. Just let it go, man." Elliot nodded, forcing himself to shake it off. This was temporary. Soon, none of this would matter. Meanwhile, Vanessa was enjoying her evening, oblivious to the impact of her words. She sipped her wine, flipping her perfectly styled blonde hair as she gossiped with Samantha about the nobodies around them. Then, a sleek black limousine pulled up outside the restaurant, catching the attention of several diners near the windows. The driver quickly stepped out, opening the door for a distinguished-looking man in an elegant black tuxedo. His confident stride and undeniable presence turned heads as he made his way inside. Vanessa barely noticed, until a hush fell over the room. The restaurant owner, Mr. Calloway, rushed forward, beaming with excitement. "Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to welcome one of the most influential figures in our city. Please, a round of applause for our esteemed guest, Elliot Graham." Vanessa's glass nearly slipped from her fingers. "Wait, what?" she whispered, staring in disbelief as the same waiter she had insulted moments ago now stood at the center of attention. Except this time, he wasn't in a wrinkled uniform. He was in a tailored designer suit, looking effortlessly regal. Elliot adjusted his cufflinks, offering a polite nod as people clapped, completely unaware of the scene that had played out earlier. Samantha gasped. "Oh my God, that's him." Vanessa's face turned ghostly pale. Her nightmare was just beginning. Vanessa's heart pounded as she stared at Elliot, her mind struggling to catch up. The ugly waiter she had mocked was now the most important man in the room. This has to be a mistake," she stammered, gripping Samantha's wrist. "He's a waiter." Samantha, equally stunned, leaned in. "Vanessa, if he's really Elliot Graham, then he's one of the richest men in the city. Why was he waiting tables?" Before Vanessa could answer, Mr. Calloway rushed to personally escort Elliot to the best seat in the house. The same seat Vanessa had smugly taken earlier. "Please, Mr. Graham, right this way," Mr. Calloway said, practically bowing. "It's an honor to have you here." Elliot smirked as he glanced at Vanessa, her face red with shock. He gave a slow, knowing nod before smoothly taking a seat that Vanessa's pulse raced. No, this isn't happening. She had spent the evening acting like royalty, but the Real King had just arrived that a waiter, the same one she had snapped at earlier, approached Elliot. "Sir, may I take your order?" Elliot smiled, glancing at Vanessa before answering. "Actually, I'd love a recommendation. Maybe Vanessa could help me out. Every head in the restaurant turned toward Vanessa. Her mouth opened and closed, her confidence crumbling. What's wrong? You were very opinionated earlier. Surely you have some thoughts now. A low murmur spread through the room as people started whispering. Vanessa had humiliated a man she thought was beneath her, and now the roles were reversed. Her nightmare had just begun. Vanessa's throat felt dry, and her hands trembled as all eyes locked onto her. Just moments ago, she had basked in the glow of being the center of attention. Now, she was shrinking under the weight of judgment. I didn't mean, she started, but Elliot simply raised a hand, silencing her. I'm sure you didn't, he said coolly. That's the problem with people like you, Vanessa. You never mean to be cruel. You just think it's your right. A hush fell over the room. Even Mr. Calloway, who had been fawning over Elliot, took a step back. No one dared to interrupt. Vanessa's cheeks burned. I didn't know who you were, she blurted out, desperate to salvage what little dignity she had left. Elliot let out a short, humorless laugh. And if you had, he leaned back in his chair. Would you have treated me with more respect? Or would you have just faked it the way you do with everyone you think is important? Vanessa swallowed hard. The answer was obvious, but she couldn't bring herself to say it. Elliot took the menu and glanced at it. I'll have the salmon, and bring a glass of your best wine. After all, he turned his piercing gaze back to her. I hear the customer is always right. The words sent a shiver down Vanessa's spine. He was throwing her own arrogance back in her face that a different waiter quickly stepped in to take Elliot's order, sparing Vanessa from further humiliation for now. But the damage was done. Murmurs spread across the gala. People who had once clamored for her attention were now whispering about her. Some looked at her with amusement, others with disgust. Samantha, still standing by her side, leaned in and whispered, Vanessa, you just made a powerful enemy. Vanessa clenched her fists. She wasn't used to being on this side of the social ladder, but she wasn't going to just accept this. Elliot Graham may have embarrassed her tonight, but she would find a way to turn this around. The gala continued, but for Vanessa, the night had lost its luster. Laughter and clinking glasses filled the air, yet all she could hear were the whispers about her. She grabbed Samantha's arm and dragged her to a quieter corner. This can't be happening, she muttered, her voice shaking. He humiliated me in front of everyone. Samantha sighed. Well, Vanessa, you kind of did that to yourself. Vanessa shot her a glare. Whose side are you on? I'm on the side of reality, Samantha replied, crossing her arms. You insulted a man who turned out to be someone important. And now, he holds all the power. Vanessa bit her lip. Power. That was the key word. She had spent years climbing the social ladder, ensuring she was always surrounded by the right people. But tonight, in a matter of minutes, she had become the subject of gossip instead of admiration. Samantha nudged her. You need to do damage control. Apologize to Elliot. Vanessa scoffed. You think groveling is going to fix this? I think showing some humility might help. Vanessa exhaled sharply, her nails digging into her palm. Humility wasn't in her vocabulary, but she had no choice. She had worked too hard to let one mistake ruin her reputation. She straightened her dress and made her way back toward Elliot's table. The crowd around him had thinned, giving her the perfect chance. Clearing her throat, she mustered her most charming smile. Mr. Graham? Elliot barely looked up from his wine glass. Yes. Vanessa's throat tightened. I just wanted to say, I misjudged you earlier, and I am sorry. Elliot finally met her gaze, his expression unreadable. He studied her for a long moment before setting his glass down. Are you apologizing because you mean it, or because you're afraid of what I could do? Vanessa hesitated, caught off guard by his bluntness. Elliot smirked. That's what I thought. He leaned back, a flicker of amusement in his eyes. Don't worry, Vanessa. I have no intention of ruining your life. Relief washed over her, but it was short-lived. Your own actions will do that for you, he added, her stomach twisted into knots. Before she could respond, Elliot turned away, effectively dismissing her. Vanessa clenched her fists. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. Vanessa left the gala feeling humiliated, her confidence shattered. The whispers followed her even as she got into her car. For the first time in her life, she wasn't the one in control. The next morning, she barely had time to sip her coffee before her phone buzzed. "Samantha, have you seen the news?" Frowning, Vanessa opened her social media feed. The headlines made her stomach drop. Socialite Vanessa Morgan humiliates CEO in disguise. Karma hits back instantly. From snob to scorned, woman's arrogance backfires at high-class gala. The videos were everywhere, clips of her mocking Elliot, followed by the grand reveal of his true identity. The comments were even worse. Classic case of judging a book by its cover. This is why you should treat everyone with respect. She thought she was better than him. Look at her now. Vanessa's hands trembled as she scrolled through the endless flood of ridicule. How had this spiraled so fast? A knock at the door snapped her out her daze. She rushed to open it, expecting Samantha. Instead, a man in a suit stood there, holding an envelope. "Miss Morgan?" "Yes," she asked cautiously. He handed her the envelope. "Consider this your official notice. You're being removed from the guest list of all upcoming elite events associated with the Graham Foundation." Vanessa's breath hitched. "Wait, what? That can't be Mr. Graham's orders." The man gave her a pointed look. "Actions have consequences." And just like that, he walked away, leaving Vanessa standing frozen in her doorway. She had been blacklisted. Vanessa slammed the door shut, her mind racing. This couldn't be happening. She had spent years cultivating her social status, attending the right events, making connections, ensuring she was always in the company of the wealthy and powerful. Now, with one mistake, it was crumbling before her eyes. She paced back and forth in her lavish apartment, gripping her phone tightly. Maybe she could fix this. Maybe if she reached out to Elliot and apologized. No, he wouldn't listen. Not after the way she had treated him. Another buzz interrupted her spiraling thoughts. "Samantha, Vanessa, brands are dropping you. They don't want the bad PR." Her heart pounded. She quickly checked her email, and dread pooled in her stomach as she scrolled through the messages. "Dear Ms. Morgan, due to recent events, we regret to inform you that our partnership is terminated effective immediately. We are distancing ourselves from the controversy and will no longer be affiliating with your brand." One by one, the sponsorships that had funded her lavish lifestyle were pulling out. "No, no, no," she muttered, her hands trembling. Her career as an influencer, as a socialite, everything she had worked for, was slipping away. And then, the worst notification of all, Elliot Graham, has blocked you. A lump formed her throat. There was no way to reach him now, no way to salvage this. For the first time in a long time, Vanessa felt powerless. Vanessa stared blankly at the screen, the weight of her mistakes crushing down on her. She had spent years climbing the social ladder, carefully curating her image, making sure she was seen in the right places with the right people. Now, it was all falling apart because of one night, one cruel remark she had made without a second thought. Her phone lit up again. "Samantha, Vanessa, this is bad. You need to do damage control. People are calling for you to be canceled." Her hands trembled as she scrolled through social media. Vanessa Morgan exposed. Watch her mock a waiter at the gala. This is why influencers don't deserve their fame. Karma came for her quick. Her followers were plummeting by the thousands. Brands were pulling out. Her name was trending for all the wrong reasons. Vanessa clenched her jaw. This wasn't just embarrassment. This was career suicide. She needed to fix this. Fast. She grabbed her phone and dialed Samantha. "I'll issue a public apology," she said the moment her friend answered. "I'll do an interview. I'll donate to charity. Whatever it takes." Samantha hesitated. "Vanessa, people don't believe your apologies anymore. They think you're just trying to save face." Vanessa swallowed hard. For the first time in her life, her beauty, her charm, none of it could get her out of this mess. And the worst part, she knew she deserved it. Vanessa sat in her dimly lit apartment, the city skyline behind her blurred by her own reflection in the window. The glamorous life she had built was slipping through her fingers like sand. No brand deals, no invitations, no admiration. For the first time in years, she was truly alone. Her laptop screen was still open to the viral video. Her video. The one where she cruelly mocked the waiter, unaware that the world was watching. The man she had humiliated, the one she had deemed unworthy of her time, had become a symbol of everything wrong with people like her. She exhaled sharply, then picked up her phone and searched his name. Daniel Carter. A recent news article popped up, from humble waiter to rising star. Meet the man who turned a public humiliation into a powerful message. Vanessa clicked on it, her heart racing. Daniel had been offered opportunities she never imagined. A local restaurant chain had hired him as a spokesperson for their new campaign about respect and kindness in the service industry. His social media following had exploded, and he was using it to advocate for workers like him. He was thriving while she was sinking. Vanessa hesitated before typing his name into Instagram. She found his profile instantly. His latest post was a picture of him standing outside an upscale restaurant with a caption, "Success isn't about where you start. It's about how you treat people on the way up." The comments were flooded with support. Her throat tightened. She needed to do something. Not just for her image, but for herself. Taking a deep breath, she composed a message. "Daniel, I owe you a sincere apology. Would you be willing to meet?" Her finger hovered over the send button. Then, with a deep breath, she pressed it. Now, all she could do was wait. Vanessa's heart pounded as she watched the screen, waiting for a response. Minutes passed, then an hour. Nothing. She paced around her apartment, checking her phone every few seconds. Had he seen it? Was he ignoring her? Did she even deserve an answer? Just as she was about to give up, her phone buzzed. Daniel Carter. "Meet me at Le Jardin Cafe. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Vanessa exhaled a breath she didn't realize she was holding. The next day, she arrived at the cafe early, dressed far more modestly than usual. No designer levels, no flashy jewelry. Just a simple dress and minimal makeup. She wanted to show she was serious. Daniel arrived exactly on time. He was dressed sharply but comfortably, confident in a way that didn't need to be flaunted. Vanessa felt a pang of realization. He had always carried himself with quiet dignity. She had just been too blind to see it. He sat down across from her, arms crossed, expression unreadable. "So, what do you want?" His tone was calm but firm. Vanessa swallowed hard. "I want to apologize." Daniel said nothing, waiting. "I was awful to you. I judged you without knowing anything about you. I was arrogant and cruel, and I hate the person I was in that moment." She clasped her hands together. "I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know that I regret it." Daniel studied her for a long time, then finally sighed. "People like you walk into places like this and assume we're beneath you. You treat us like background characters in your life. And then, when the world calls you out, you suddenly want redemption." Vanessa's face burned with shame. "I deserve that. I really do. But I don't want redemption just for my image. I want to change. I need to change." Daniel leaned back, still skeptical. "And how do I know this isn't just damage control?" Vanessa hesitated, then reached into her bag and pulled out a folded paper. She slid it across the table. Daniel unfolded it, and his eyes flicked across the words. It was a donation confirmation to a charity supporting service workers. "I don't expect this to fix things," Vanessa said softly, "but it's a start." Daniel looked at her for a long time before speaking. "Words are easy. Actions take work." Vanessa nodded. "I know, but I'm willing to prove it." For the first time, Daniel's expression softened, just a little, then "prove it." The days that followed felt like a constant uphill battle for Vanessa. She made the donation, but that was just the first step. She wanted to show Daniel that her apology wasn't just for show, that she was truly trying to change. She began by reaching out to her own staff, people she'd once looked down upon, and offering support where it was needed. She started small, checking in on them, offering more shifts to those struggling, and even organizing a team-building event to bring everyone together. But the hardest part was with her own family. Her mother, who had always pushed her toward perfection, was the first to notice Vanessa's change in behavior. "You're not acting like yourself, Vanessa," her mother remarked one evening while they were having dinner. "Why are you suddenly so concerned about others?" Vanessa put down her fork and looked her mother in the eyes. Because I realized I've been a horrible person. Her mother raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical. What's this? Some new age self-discovery. Vanessa nodded. Maybe, but I don't think it's new age. I think it's just realizing that I've been selfish. I need to change. I need to do better for me and for the people around me. Her mother said nothing for a while, but the silence was enough to let Vanessa know she wasn't fully convinced. The next day, Vanessa visited the restaurant where she had once worked and where she had mocked Daniel. She approached the owner, a woman named Rose, and asked if she could help. Help with what? Rose asked, looking at her curiously. Vanessa smiled awkwardly. Anything. I just want to make amends. Rose raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised but intrigued. I can always use extra hands. We have some new staff coming in soon, and I'd love to have you on board for a few shifts if you're serious. Vanessa agreed, and from that moment on, she worked side by side with people she had once judged. It wasn't glamorous. She washed dishes, served tables, cleaned floors, and did whatever was asked of her. The IT was humbling, to say the least. Every day she worked there, she realized just how much she had taken for granted. She started to understand the dedication it took to run a restaurant, the pressure of dealing with rude customers, and the emotional toll it took on every employee. She didn't expect Daniel to notice her efforts, but she kept going. Every evening after her shifts, she would send him messages, brief, honest updates on the work she had done and how she was learning from it. But there was still no response. A week had passed since Vanessa began her humbling journey at Rose's restaurant. She had started to develop a deep respect for the people who worked there, especially the ones who had put in years of service. Yet, despite her progress, she couldn't shake the feeling that her past sins loomed over her. The silence from Daniel continued to haunt her, and she had no idea how to break through the wall she had built. One rainy evening, Vanessa was closing up after her shift when she heard the familiar sound of the restaurant door opening. A group of customers walked in, looking for a quick bite. She was about to call it a night when she froze. The tall figure in the front of the group was none other than Daniel. Her heart skipped a beat. He hadn't been in touch with her, not even to acknowledge her messages. The last time they spoke, she had humiliated him, and now, here he was, standing in front of her. He hadn't seen her yet. Vanessa took a deep breath, wiping her hands on her apron before stepping out to greet the group. "Good evening, sir," she said in a calm but professional tone. That Daniel's eyes flickered toward her, his expression unreadable. At first, he seemed not to recognize her, but then something shifted in his gaze. The recognition was slow, but unmistakable. His lips tightened as he took her in. He was still the same man, calm, composed, but there was something about him that had changed. He wasn't the man she had known from the past, someone who cowered to her every word. This man stood his ground. "You work here now?" he asked, his voice low but laced with curiosity. Vanessa nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. "Yes, I'm trying to make things right." Daniel didn't respond immediately. Instead, he turned to the group of people with him, addressing them briefly, and then gestured for them to take their seats. Vanessa led them to a booth, silently observing his every move. As she handed them their menus, she tried to ignore the feeling of his gaze on her. It was the same feeling she had when she first met him, intense, but now tinged with something else, something that made her uneasy. She could tell Daniel wasn't the same man who had once been a subject of her cruelty. He had become more confident, more grounded, and it made her feel smaller. While she was serving their drinks, one of the other servers whispered to her, "That's Daniel Lewis, the guy who owns the tech company." Vanessa's eyes widened. She had heard of Daniel's success, of course, but she never expected him to be such a powerful figure in the industry. The man she had once belittled, the man who now looked at her with cold indifference, was a millionaire entrepreneur. That he was the one who had gotten away from her world, the world of privilege, power, and arrogance that she had once belonged to. The rest of the night went by in a blur for Vanessa. She couldn't stop thinking about the conversation she had with Daniel. She didn't know how to approach him, how to apologize for everything she had done in the past. The guilt gnawed at her insides, and every time she caught a glimpse of his face, she couldn't help but feel that she had missed an opportunity, When the dinner rush died down and she had a few minutes to herself, Vanessa checked her phone. Her eyes went wide when she saw a message from an unknown number. It was brief, yet to the point. "I'm hosting a gala next weekend. I'd like to invite you. I think you owe me a conversation." It was from Daniel. Vanessa stood frozen for a moment. This wasn't a normal invitation. There was something calculated about it, a message hidden within the words. Was it a chance to make amends? Or was it a test of her humility? Either way, Vanessa knew she had no choice but to accept. She spent the next few days preparing for the gala. The entire restaurant staff was abuzz with excitement. Some were even talking about the high-profile guest Daniel would be hosting. It wasn't every day that a billionaire tech mogul hosted a public event in the city. Vanessa felt the weight of the event on her shoulders. It wasn't just any gala. It was a chance for her to redeem herself, to show Daniel that she had changed. But the closer she got to the event, the more nervous she became. What if it was too late? What if the damage was irreversible? On the night of the gala, Vanessa stood before her mirror, dressed in a sleek black dress. It was simple but elegant. Nothing too flashy, just enough to fit in. She did her best to tame her nerves, but it wasn't easy. The room she would be walking into was filled with people of wealth and influence. The kinds of people who wouldn't think twice about dismissing someone like her. But tonight wasn't about them. It was about Daniel. She had to face him, to look him in the eye, and prove that she wasn't the person she had been. Arriving at the gala, Vanessa couldn't help but feel out of place. The venue was grand, the decor exquisite. There were well-dressed guests everywhere, mingling with glasses of champagne in hand. But she didn't let herself get lost in the glamour. Her eyes immediately sought out Daniel. She found him near the center of the room, surrounded by a group of people. His commanding presence was undeniable, even from a distance. He was dressed in a tailored suit, his posture straight, his gaze scanning the room with purpose. Vanessa felt a mix of admiration and anxiety bubble up inside her. She wasn't sure she was ready to face him yet, but as if by fate, their eyes met across the crowded room. He gave her a small nod, a signal to come closer. With a deep breath, Vanessa made her way through the crowd, heart pounding in her chest. When she reached him, Daniel turned to her, his expression unreadable. "You made it," he said, his voice calm, but there was an edge to it, like he was waiting for something. Vanessa swallowed her nerves. "I came to talk, to apologize if you'll let me." For a moment, Daniel didn't say anything. He just stared at her, as though weighing her sincerity. The silence stretched between them, thick and uncomfortable. Then, finally, he spoke. "Do you know what it feels like?" he began, his voice low but sharp. "To be made to feel invisible? To be dismissed, judged, humiliated by someone who thought they were better than you." Vanessa's throat tightened. She nodded, feeling the full weight of his words. "I do now," she whispered. Daniel studied her for a moment longer before nodding slightly. "I appreciate that, but it's not just about what you say. It's about showing that you've truly changed." Vanessa knew that he wasn't just talking about her words. This was her chance to prove herself. The conversation hung in the air, but she was determined not to back down. "I was wrong," she said. "I know that, and I don't expect anything from you, but want to make amends however I can." Daniel seemed to soften just a little. "Then let's see if you can keep that promise. But not here. Not tonight." With that, he turned away to speak to someone else, leaving Vanessa standing in the midst of the crowd, her heart racing. It wasn't the grand resolution she had hoped for, but it was a start. Vanessa left the gala that night with a mixture of emotions swirling inside her. The encounter with Daniel hadn't gone exactly as she had hoped, but it was far from a failure. He hadn't dismissed her outright, nor had he treated her with disdain. There was still a chance, a small one, but a chance nonetheless. Over the next few weeks, Vanessa focused on proving her sincerity, both in her actions and words. She worked harder than ever at the restaurant, trying to show the staff and her customers that she was more than just a snobby waitress. Her interactions with everyone were more genuine. She took the time to listen, to apologize, and to offer help whenever it was needed. But as the days passed, the weight of the situation began to settle in. Was she really capable of changing everything about herself? Could she become the person Daniel wanted to see? Despite her best efforts, there were moments of doubt. She found herself tempted to slip back into old habits, to roll her eyes at difficult customers, or to dismiss people who irritated her. But each time she did, the memory of Daniel's cold stare at the gala would flash in her mind, and she would stop herself. One afternoon, about a month after the gala, Vanessa was working a particularly busy shift when the restaurant manager called her into the office. "Vanessa, we need to talk," he said, his voice serious. Her stomach dropped. Had she done something wrong? Was it about her behavior or her attitude? "Everything okay?" she asked cautiously, trying to gauge the mood. The manager glanced at her, then spoke. "You've been doing great lately, but I got an email this morning, and you might want to sit down for this." Her heart skipped a beat as he handed her a printout of an email. The subject line read, "Job offer, waitress to manager position." Vanessa stared at it, feeling a surge of disbelief. She skimmed the email quickly. It was from Daniel's company. He was offering her a position as a manager at one of his new restaurant locations. The pay was astronomical compared to what she was making now, and the benefits were more than she had ever dreamed of. The email ended with a note, "I believe you've proven yourself worthy of this opportunity. I look forward to seeing how you rise to the challenge." Vanessa couldn't breathe. She read the email again, certain that she had misunderstood something. This had to be a mistake, right? "Wait, what does this mean?" Vanessa asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The manager smiled, clearly aware of the gravity of the situation. "It means that Daniel believes in you. He's offering you a chance to take your career to the next level. You've earned it, Vanessa." She felt the rush of emotions hit her all at once. Disbelief, joy, gratitude, and a deep sense of redemption. This wasn't just a career opportunity. It was a chance to finally prove to herself and to Daniel that she was no longer the person she once was. That evening, Vanessa walked out of the restaurant with a smile on her face, her thoughts racing. The offer was surreal, but it was also a gift, a second chance to redeem herself, and she wasn't going to let it slip away. When Vanessa arrived at her new position a few weeks later, it was clear that the restaurant was nothing like the one she had worked in before. The environment was sleek, modern, and sophisticated. Daniel had spared no expense in making sure everything was perfect. She met with her new team, a group of talented and driven individuals who were nothing like the colleagues she had worked with before. They were ambitious and professional, and they set a standard that Vanessa was determined to meet. But as the days passed, she began to realize that her new role wasn't going to be easy. She had to adjust to a higher level of responsibility, dealing with larger-scale problems and navigating the complexities of the management world. There were moments when she felt overwhelmed, unsure she was truly capable of handling everything that came her way. But as she sat at her desk one evening, reviewing reports and making plans for the next week, she felt a sense of pride wash over her. She had come so far, from the snobby waitress who had mocked Daniel to the manager of one of his most successful establishments. And it was all because of the second chance he had given her. One afternoon, after a particularly long day, Daniel appeared in her office. He looked at her with the same calm demeanor he always had, but this time, there was a hint of something else in his eyes: respect. "I see you've settled in," he said, leaning against the doorframe. Vanessa looked up from her work, her heart skipping a beat. "I'm trying my best." Daniel nodded. "That's all anyone can ask for. I'm proud of how far you've come." Vanessa felt the warmth of his words. For the first time, she didn't feel like she was trying to prove something. She had already proven it, and Daniel recognized that. "You're going to do great here," he added, his voice firm yet kind. "Keep pushing yourself. And remember, change doesn't happen overnight. But I've seen enough to know you're capable of more than you realize." Vanessa smiled, feeling a wave of gratitude toward him. "Thank you. I won't let you down." As he left her office, she couldn't help but think about how far she had come. She had once thought she was too good for this world. Now, she knew she wasn't too good for anyone. As weeks turned into months, Vanessa settled into her new role with greater ease. The challenges of managing a high-end restaurant were demanding, but she embraced them with a new sense of purpose. The early mornings, the late nights, the constant juggling of responsibilities, all of it had become a part of her daily life. She had learned to listen more than she spoke, to treat every member of her team with respect, regardless of their role. The lessons she had learned from her time as a waitress, the ones Daniel had indirectly taught her, were invaluable. The respect she showed her staff was mirrored back in the quality of their work, and the restaurant's reputation soared. The once busy shifts now ran like clockwork. One evening, as Vanessa was finalizing inventory reports, she received an unexpected visitor. It was the same young woman who had mocked her at the gala, the one who had looked down on her for being a waitress. Her expression was different this time. Gone was the judgment, replaced by an almost apologetic look. "Vanessa," the woman said hesitantly. Vanessa looked up, surprised. "Yes, can I help you?" She tried to hide the curiosity in her voice, not knowing what to expect. I came to apologize," the woman said, looking slightly embarrassed. "I didn't know who you were that night at the gala. I assumed you were just another waitress, but I've learned that I was completely wrong. I was rude." Vanessa raised an eyebrow. This was an unexpected turn of events. The last time they had met, the woman had mocked her openly. "I appreciate your apology," Vanessa replied. She wasn't sure if she could ever truly forgive her for the way she had been treated, but she respected the fact that the woman was willing to admit her mistake. "I didn't realize how condescending I was, and I'm sorry. You were more than what I assumed. I've been reading about you, the restaurant, and your rise in management, and I'm truly impressed. You deserve everything you've achieved," the woman continued. Vanessa was silent for a moment, thinking over the encounter. "Thank you," she said quietly. "But let me tell you, what I've achieved hasn't been easy. It's been a journey of hard work, self-reflection, and, frankly, a lot of humbling moments." The woman nodded, clearly taking the lesson to heart. "I respect that. I hope we can start over. No judgments, just mutual respect." Vanessa smiled warmly. "I think that's a good place to start." As the woman left the restaurant, Vanessa couldn't help but feel that this encounter had come full circle. She had proven, not just to herself, but to others, that she was capable of change. She wasn't the same person who had been mocked and humiliated at the gala, nor was she the same woman who had mocked others in return. Months passed, and with each passing day, Vanessa's confidence grew. Her restaurant was thriving, and the staff was increasingly loyal and hardworking. The customers were happy, the reviews were glowing, and the corporate headquarters took notice of her exceptional leadership. One afternoon, as Vanessa walked into the back office after a meeting with Daniel, she was greeted by her staff with a surprise that a small party had been organized in her honor, an impromptu celebration to mark her success. There were balloons, flowers, and a large cake with "Congratulations, Vanessa" written on it. Her eyes welled up as she looked around at her team, who had once been skeptical of her. Now, they treated her with the same respect she had learned to give. She knew this moment was a milestone, a testament to how far she had come. "Vanessa," Daniel said as he approached, a proud smile on his face. "You've really done it. You've transformed not just this restaurant, but yourself. I'm proud to have you as part of my team." Vanessa smiled back, feeling a sense of contentment she had never known before. "Thank you, Daniel. I couldn't have done it without your guidance and the chance you gave me." Daniel nodded. "I knew you had it in you. You just needed the right opportunity to prove yourself." As the evening wore on, Vanessa couldn't help but reflect on everything that had brought her to this point. The insults, the mistakes, the long hours, the second chances, it had all led her here. She was no longer the snobby, dismissive woman who had once looked down on others. She was someone new, someone who had earned her place and was ready to continue growing. And for the first time, she wasn't just working to prove something to others. She was working to prove something to herself. As the months turned into a year, Vanessa's success in her career had only continued to flourish. She became a symbol of resilience and self-improvement within the company. She was frequently invited to corporate events where she spoke about her journey, about how a single act of kindness and an opportunity had changed her life forever. She also began mentoring new employees, helping them avoid the same mistakes she had made early in her career. She would often remind them of the importance of humility, respect, and hard work. One evening, as she was preparing to leave the restaurant, she received a phone call from Daniel. "Vanessa, I have a proposition for you," he began. "I've been thinking about the next step for you. You've done so well at managing this location, and I want to see you grow further. I'm offering you the chance to oversee multiple locations, to become a regional manager for the entire chain." Vanessa's heart skipped a beat. This was the opportunity of a lifetime. It was everything she had worked toward. "I'm honored," she replied, "but I've still got a lot to learn. Are you sure I'm ready for this?" "Absolutely," Daniel said confidently. "You've already proven you're ready. Now it's time for you to take the next step." Vanessa smiled, knowing that this was just the beginning. The woman who had once doubted her potential had finally found her path, and it was leading to an even brighter future. And as she looked at her reflection in the mirror that evening, she realized something profound. She wasn't just ready to manage a chain of restaurants. She was ready to take on whatever came next, because she knew, deep down, that she was capable of anything.